can you tell us about how this pandemic days have changed the way of doing business in UK and especially in Zoom? I mean, how did the Zoom grow up in these days?
Yeah, I mean, so it's been quite a whirlwind, actually, Murat. You know, I think in the UK and certainly, you know, in the countries that Zoom works in, people had to move very quickly from one mode of working to another mode of working. And you know, some of the statistics I've seen is that about 5 to 10% of people worked irregularly from home. You know, it was kind of always seen as a bit of a, you know, added extra. You know, it was kind of a flexibility. And always then people tolerated not being able to work as well from home as they were in the office. You know, they were, you know, hanging on to calls or being at the end of a telephone and those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, we go from 5 to 10% to 100% of people are working at home. And, you know, the lucky ones were the ones that were already working with us, you know, because they knew how to do it. They had the tools, they had the platform, and instantly just, you know, adapted to, you know, some pretty different ways of working. You know, the gallery view is great, but it's a bit different from around the table. You know, meetings are different. And of course, that's happening to those that had adopted us. Then a whole range of businesses came and talked to us quite quickly about scaling up. Some were already halfway through rollouts. They wanted to, you know, speed those rollouts into, you know, 6 months of rollout into a couple of weeks. Others, you know, adopted our services really very, very quickly. And of course, that was the business community. What took, you know, I don't think it took Eric by surprise. Eric very much went into this crisis with I have a platform that can help people. You know, his, you know, kind of his ability to bring his humble, I want to make my users happy message kind of translated into this of, you know, well, maybe if I can't make them 100% happy, at least I can make them happier you know, than they would be without my tool. And so he decided, or, you know, I wasn't party to the conversations, but, you know, the decision was made to support the people in China in the lockdown. And then, you know, that led to huge amounts of capacity or people coming onto the platform. And then the decision was made to support schools in many, many countries. You know, we ended up supporting 90,000 schools in 20 countries who are using Zoom. And so we're busy supporting these business customers. And Zoom is designed, or was designed, to support the business customer. And suddenly, you know, we welcomed another 290 million people onto the platform, you know, in 4 months, from December, you know, when there were 10 million people regularly using that. And that's 10 million in a day. Suddenly, you know, by the end of March, we were, you know, talking about 200 million. And just yesterday, we were, you know, we kind of revealed that we're up to, you know, 300 million a day. You know, so that was 30 times growth in 4 months. And these are all sorts of different users, you know, people using it to teach, using it to socialize, using it to instruct music, you know, and so that was a massive, suddenly, you know, we were selling and talking to business customers, you know, a platform which really helped transform their business lives. And suddenly we're now a household name, where, you know, your friends actually go, yo, you mentioned you worked for Zoom, didn't you? You know, and you kind of go, oh yeah, and now it's interesting. But I think that kind of the thing that stood out for this period for me was, and you as a technology professional, the ability of the platform that Eric designed and built with his team, I'm 9 months in, so I can claim no kind of kudos for that. But the platform he built must have broken every record for expandability. To go 30 times in 4 months. I mean, and I was talking to my other CIO advisor colleagues at Zoom the other day, and we've got maybe 150 years experience in the IT industry, being CIOs and serving businesses to make them better using technology. And no one could come up with an example that was anywhere close. I remember on the trading floor at Credit Suisse when we went 3 times our normal trading volume on a particular day. Everyone was tearing their hair out. Luckily, it was on a Thursday and Friday, and we needed the weekend to sort ourselves out, And that was 3 times. This is 10 times more than that. So I think that, the records that have been broken on expandability are a big story in themselves. I don't have to tell you what the stories are, but what do you think? I mean, have you ever come across anything like that?
Yeah. It's whenever I talk with the CIOs right now, everybody says exactly the same thing. For example, the finance sector, the banking sector. In Turkey, we are, in pandemic days, no one wants to go to the banks. So the banks also say that the digital applications are booming right now. I mean, the usage of the digital applications. The FMCG sector also, we cannot go to the shopping market, so we always using the applications. So they are now expanding their infrastructure and buying lots of the different things. So I mean, this is the golden days for CIOs. And you have mentioned that your friends are now saying that, oh, you are working for Zoom. And that's the case for me as well. We were doing CIO breakfast sessions with Logitech, Logitech, I suppose. And they were always mentioning about our products are very compatible with Zoom. And I was thinking, what is Zoom? It was a couple of years ago. So now we are very familiar with Zoom, and you mentioned that it is 30 times bigger now in 4 months. So I think you are gaining millions of new users every single day.
Well, I don't know, sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if you've seen the downloads per day. There's a little chart. I can send it to you afterwards, a little chart that shows the downloads per day and compares it with, other video providers, because clearly the use of video is important to people, and they will find the service that works for them. But that's the comparison. But we were downloading maybe 3 million a day.
3 million. Wow.
Yeah, we've been at the #1 app store downloads. It's like being the Beatles. Top of the charts, what song are we going to produce next? The next one's about AES 256 GCM.
It's for me a Michael Jackson, maybe. I mean, 80s guy, so yeah, that's good for you. So I mean, you are advisor to CIO, and this 30 times getting bigger in the infrastructure also needs some rapid, quick moves. So how was these days in terms of technology for you?
So from a technology perspective, the platform is very well architected to be scalable. Zoom has 17 dedicated data centers for the streaming of encrypted meeting data. So the platform works that as a user, I connect to the nearest data center to me. We'll come back onto routing protocols in a moment, but I connect to the data center nearest to me, where I can subscribe to the stream of data that is scaled for my internet connection or the connection bandwidth that I have. So I get the best possible service that I can tolerate. And then every other user or participant in the meeting connects to their nearest, and then the 17 work together to handle that. Now, those 17 can load balance between themselves. So if the one I'm connecting to is actually full, I can connect to the next one. So you get this instant load balancing between 17 data centers. And of course, different parts of the world are busy at different times, and it kind of moves with the sun.
Yeah.
And so there's a kind of natural inbuilt scalability within that environment, and basically because of the this has been built for the cloud, built for scalability, we get much more bang for the buck out of a CPU. So each CPU that we deploy is much more effective than for competitors, because it's built to be scalable, and it's built to have a low footprint on the meeting traffic. I mean, a lot of the heavy lifting is on the client side, because actually that's in your control. What you don't want to do is have lots of heavy lifting between the connection points. So those 17, they were always designed to be at a minimum of 50% spare capacity of the peak load. So that was helpful. Mm-hmm. and they can all then cover for each other. And then we have the capability to offload to Amazon Web Services should our 17 be totally full, or it was inappropriate to offload from one region to another region that was on the other side of the world, that you don't want the speed of light issues. Then you can use a local Amazon Web Services to give you compute capacity to deal with the load. So actually we can expand to the size of Amazon's capability. So that architecture was spot on. I mean, if there are prizes for record breaking in this, it goes to Eric and his engineering team for conceiving that. But that's why Zoom, I think that's why I was interested in joining and being part of this, because it was built for the internet era. It was built cloud native. It was built, to support this particular use case. And, the vision was just spot on. I mean, I'm a bit of a geek myself, and you've got to put respect where respect is due.
All of us, yeah.
I love the product design, but actually I couldn't hold a candle to Eric's brilliance in kind of re-architecting this. It's just amazing.
Yeah. So people always criticized you that you are very fast because there are some security vulnerabilities, because you don't, encrypt this video so high, and lots of talks were going on. But in these days, Zoom has just announced lots of security patches and security updates as well. So can you comment on that as well? I mean, how is it going with the security issue?
Yeah, no, I'm really pleased that you talked about that, Murat, because actually Zoom is a leader in secure video first communications, and it was a leader 4 months ago. We've worked for thousands of the top corporations who've been all over our product, all over it. The amount of security assessments you do, and people lifting the covers. We were, and we had something that was really appropriate for business usage, working with the IT departments to configure it. So then we came into this period, and suddenly we have the world's technology researchers looking at Zoom. It's clearly of interest to people. People want to read about Zoom. It's, they will click on an article that has Zoom in the title. And so, people want to be part of that. And naturally, attention sells, and, you're in the business of getting attention, and you know that better than I do. So what happened was really three things. Our secure product was being picked up and being used by people who had different use cases. So the yoga teacher, the school, the person who's teaching people at school, and they picked up the product with defaults that had been not really configured for their use case. So when we sold to IT department, to corporations, you run through all the configuration settings. There are some organizations who don't want to screen share. There are some organizations who don't want to allow, well, most organizations wanted a password or waiting room. Yeah, different organizations had different, you know, that kind of, you have to adjust your security to your business usage. You know, is that it's a trade-off. You make it too secure, people don't use it. If you make it insecure, people, you know, abuse it. So businesses thought through that and used our configuration. Yeah. Unfortunately, you know, with so many different use cases, you know, we didn't really get the defaults right. We made it, you know, easy for people to find that uninvited guests came. So that became very, very quickly apparent to us. And so a lot of our early, you know, changes were about making sure that the security defaults were different. So when someone picked it up for the first time, they were naturally protected, you know, with waiting rooms and passwords. And also we're very proud of the new feature. I don't know if you've seen it, the security icon down at the bottom of the screen.
Really? No.
So yeah, because I think that's because neither of us are the host.
Yeah.
I'm
the host indeed.
Yeah. So actually,
should I click it right now?
Oh, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So if you look at the security button, and what can you see there?
Well, I should pick my glasses. Okay. Lock meeting, enable waiting room, share screen chat, and rename. And I think allowed share screen chat and rename themselves.
Yeah. So what you can now do at the moment, I can go in and, you know, rename myself. I can you know, put something rude here, and then you see it. But you could now lock that. And I
don't prefer to lock right now. You can change it.
Yeah, here I am.
Okay, I just lost my internet connection, I think.
Yeah, I also find that, you know, from random times, you find that people in the street are watching videos or doing various things, and it's slow. So it could have been me. I don't know.
Okay. Because I had to shut down Zoom because there was no connection or something like that. Okay.
Good.
So I get it. I mean, are we still recording? Let me see. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So
that button puts you in control. I mean,
you were mentioning that novice people would not make security levels so high when they were using Zoom because you had new users like yoga teachers or companies without CIOs or IT decision makers.
Well, I don't think I mean, businesses tend to pick it up and run it, and, you know, there are policy driven. Clearly there are different sorts of businesses, but clearly, you know, what has happened is people have publicly put out their, you know, meeting ID and put no protection on the meeting, no waiting room, no password. And sometimes people who don't like what they're meeting about come and join. And, you know, that's really upsetting when that happens to people. And clearly it's our responsibility to help them use the tool, you know, use our platform, you know, in a more secure way. And that's why we've had this focus on trying to make sure we get the platform right for those type of users. So, you know, we've had a bit of that, and that I think has come, you know, that's the downside of helping so many people during this era. You know, 290 million people. You know, that's a lot of people who we maybe didn't expect to use the tool so quickly or the platform so quickly. So that's one of the security things. And then, you know, all software has bugs. And you know that, and we know, you know, and every platform has bounty programs, and so we, you know, having become so famous, become a household name, it's really important to get the research community to start working with us, rather than seeing it was in their interest to use our name to, you know, get reputation. And I think that's beginning to happen. I mean, though the things that have been talked about in the open, we fixed them all really quickly, and we welcome security researchers come and find something and get paid for us to fix it.
Yeah. Whenever something is getting more and more famous, it's an operating system or a platform or a software, people tend to, dig it and find new things that they can make them famous, the community.
But I think that, not only, this is such an amazing period because not only have we shattered all records for expandability, we're also, this is brilliant for Zoom because all the attention is making us stronger and better. You couldn't ask for this, you couldn't spend enough money to get this attention on your product from all the brilliant researchers. And, as a consequence, if there are any other things out there, we're going to be able to fix them. And that's for everyone's benefit. That is really, really good news. So, this is a moment where, I don't know, you've worked in companies and different sectors and actually you get the sense of a culture and how people responding to this, and the Zoom organization is clearly under a lot of pressure. New users, lots of people wanting to buy, lots of people wanting it for free, lots of people wanting help, PR, all this type of stuff. And I see the organization rising to the challenge. And people know that it's their moment to shine. And out of all this attention, we are going to end up with a platform that can really continue to make people happy, even after this crisis is over.
Yeah. And from 10 million to 300 million users.
Yeah, that was only announced yesterday, by the way.
Oh, great.
The 300 million is a brand new figure because it was 200 million at the end of March.
Oh, great. So it's a new information for us as well. So you are expanding what you are doing right now, and what can we expect from Zoom in a few months or in a few days? Will you be adding new features to Zoom? How will Zoom evolve?
So we have decided, and been very clear and announced it, that we're laser focused for the next 90 days on making sure that we are at the forefront of security in video platforms. We have a very secure platform at the moment, and we've been addressing things and releasing things. We talked about the security button at the bottom there, some releases to deal with things that have been reported to us. And of course, now we have announced yesterday that we are making the platform capable for AES GCM encryption, 256 encryption, which is a first. This is, the gold standard of mass transit for encryption. So that's a pretty special moment because, people, we were using AES 256 ECB encryption, which has have you seen that picture of the penguin, the Linux penguin encrypted? I'll send you the Wikipedia link, but if on AES 256 ECM you run it against something that has the same pattern, you get the repeating encryption, and you can intuit what that pattern was. So there is so researchers have done that. Now, we didn't think that was a problem because encrypted and compressed video feed doesn't have that kind of, it's the same pattern. Then people go, well, sharing a screen, so there was argument about that. We were still, a leader by using AES 256 ECB. Everyone else was at lower levels, but there was, is it good enough? So this is now the gold standard encryption, and I think it's the intention is to release it over the weekend, as long as the build meets all our release standards. Whoever
I talk, they just tell me that they are doing 5 or 6 video conferencing each day. So Zoom is maybe their main platform for right now, or other video conferencing tools. So do you think Zoom will evolve eventually in a collaborative way that we are using in different things as well? For example, now we are video conferencing right now with you, and you mentioned about a file with me, or I mean, you can just postpone a task for me. Are there in your roadmap that Zoom will evolve into an backend office product as well?
So I have, nothing to announce on that. I mean, but what I would steer you to is the app marketplace, where Zoom has worked with vendors. So if you Google Zoom app marketplace, you'll find that there are 200, more than 200 now, vendors that use Zoom as the video component of the business process that they are trying to run.
Oh, okay.
And so, a good example, if I were your doctor and we were having, what I would like to do is trigger the video call from the heart of my medical system, so that if we were recording something or you sent me a chat or whatever, it could go and be a record within the record keeping system that I had for my interaction with you. That's kind of using video, but the main use case is me being your doctor and keeping your records. So what we're seeing is a lot of line of business applications using Zoom as the video element of their business process, and being able to trigger a Zoom call from the heart of the business application. What's another good example? We have a bank in the UK where you can be on chat and doing stuff, and then you can elevate it to a Zoom call so you can have a consultation. Now, of course, that needs great developer tools. So we produce a Zoom SDK that people can use to integrate directly into their product. And also then we have very coherent APIs that allow you to extract the data that you have generated, all the customer content out of Zoom into applications. Good example is in some of the banks that use Zoom for the type of, a financial planning. They take the record of the video and the transcript that has been completed, Zoom do transcription, and they take it into a compliance engine that is natively integrated with the API. And then they run AI against the transcript, looking for, words that might indicate mis-selling or bad practice. And then they alert that to the compliance officer with the place in the text that has been detected and the point in the video where it was said. So, I see Zoom becoming more and more, it will solve this use case. I want to talk with you. And so, that was the rationale for our interaction. But I see it being triggered and becoming a default way of enhancing another business process, and you just go and sit with a CIO and start talking about their line of business applications, and very quickly they go, oh, what about that? What about that? That was a good example. Video prison visits.
That's interesting.
You wouldn't want someone to have the native Zoom client in prison, but you would maybe want them to have a secure application from which, so I'm just brainstorming with you here, but those are the sorts of,
that's something new for me as well. I didn't just check about that. So maybe the viewers of this video recording, the CIO network of Turkey, maybe have getting some new ideas that they can use Zoom in their native applications and embed it with the SDK. So in Turkey, maybe there are lots of companies right now using Zoom. maybe in their new path, they will be integrating Zoom in their applications as well. That's something.
I mean, you know, interesting. When I was just talking the other day that because of this lockdown, a lot of the UK courts are having to have hearings, you know, using Zoom, and Zoom has become, you know, the default choice of judges because they can control it, they can do the security, they can, you know, and I was working with one of the leading case management providers who get all that, you know, evidence and, you know, documentation and make sure the right people are in the right place, you know, have the right things, the right disclosure is done. And they wanted to trigger Zoom from the heart of their system when the hearing was ready, so that they could make sure everyone had all the right documents. The hearing was configured in the right way with all the right participants having the right abilities to contribute. And the judge had to just press one button to start, you know, and that's kind of really smart.
Yeah.
And this is where, you know,
that's interesting.
Yeah, where you have a platform that just deals with the video element, and you can integrate it into your line of business. You know, that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and that means that not only enterprises, also the entrepreneurs. I mean, the startups can definitely benefit from Zoom SDK as well. So,
and you know, and that's where I you know, kind of came back to it before. One of the reasons that I got involved with Zoom is because the vision and the platform was just excellent, and you know, I cannot sing Eric's praises too highly. But you know, what we're seeing now is that the platform's really living up to its early promise. You know, it was good. Now it's scaled 30 times. It's showing it's excellent. And now it's being integrated by all, you know, over 200 other apps that are natively available. Some of them very simple integrations, but some of them quite complex integrations. And people are realizing that in their application architecture, video isn't just for, you know, one-to-one collaboration or meetings. Meetings are an important use case, but video is actually a layer that every other application can access when it needs to. And suddenly people go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about video like that before.
Yeah. Maybe we should make another call with you, with the CIOs of banks and big enterprises here in Turkey, so they can just get in contact with you or ask their questions about how they integrate their services with Zoom. Or
I'm very happy to do a webinar. If you want to schedule a webinar, or you know, kind of talk with the PR agency, I'm up for it. You know, because the thing is, I'm a sucker for these conversations. What turns me on every day is using technology to invent new businesses or make businesses better, you know, and quite frankly, Zoom is just, you know, just such a good vehicle to help do that. Okay, Magnus. So kind of my key messages are, you know, we've broken all records, absolutely all records. You know, I'm flabbergasted. You know. And Zoom is really living up to its early promise, and you know, this is just a fantastic moment for, you know, to really demonstrate that this thing was architected for the future, and you know, how can people take advantage of it? And all this attention is really making us better. You know, you see the releases, the security icon, the encryption. So, you know, as you can hear, I'm pretty passionate about the whole thing.
Yeah. That feelings pass me as well. You know, you are very passionate now. Okay. Thank you, Magnus. It was lovely. Nice to talk with you.